Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I have Worldbox running in the background and I want to talk a bit about different ideas of how to of DnD campaigns and how I usually design campaigns, or how I design this campaign specifically, and also about different campaign types just for you in general. So let's start. There are two main campaign styles overall, or main campaign super types. One is the sandbox, and the other one would be the narrative or the story-driven campaign. Now, for a little bit more detail, the sandbox is basically we have a world build, but there is no main campaign, no main goal. People can go on, player can go on about what they want to do, how they want to see the world, what they want to do, and it's very open to them for exploration, for general mischief. While the narrative campaign is much more driven by a story, by a narrative, by something that the DM tells the players and that they kind of have to do. This campaign will go more into the narrative style, but I can make a video about sandbox in general if you want to know more about that from me. Now, next we are going to talk about genres. There are quite a few of these, and I'm not going to go over all of them because that's not possible, but just as a general direction, this is something like high fantasy, might of magic, dragons and all that stuff. There's low fantasy, which is more realistic with less healing and more no resurrections, for example. That can be a thing. Much more realistic, as in less black and white with good and bad, but more ambivalent characters. Science fiction is another genre that is not fantasy. And for example, horror is a genre that you can mix with other genres to create something new. Horror in itself is a really interesting genre to use and to play around with, but that's not the story of this campaign. This one will be a high fantasy campaign with lots of magic, lots of colorful and independent strong characters, mystical creatures and other themes, which is actually the thing about the next thing I want to talk about, the themes. One of the themes that I generally like to use, for example, is undead as advocates. So this campaign, in a reminder of something of Sea of Thieves, in a reminder of something of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, will have a strong theme of undead roaming the, undead ships or ships full of skeletons roaming these waters, voodoo curses that bring people back without their, not in the way of resurrection magic, and similar content that just refers to undead. This is also in view of my latest campaign that I had run, which was, as again, the desert campaign that focused around also undead as the enemy. So this is kind of a continuation of that. The actual arc villain of the last campaign, I think, was never defeated, never found, really. So the characters itself are stuck or are left on the other campaign, but I will definitely give people the chance to remedy the end of the last session or of the last campaign and finish off the arch enemy, the evil necromancer that was the, well, not the final boss, but the adversary of the last campaign. Also, I generally like undead as an adversary because it is less of an insinuation about racist stuff. For example, if people just put goblins as a race, as an enemy, this always feels a bit odd to me, so I'm trying not to do that. Yeah, other themes of this campaign will be exploration. The characters will not be given a complete map, they will rather have partial maps and have to put them together to make their own. They will have maps of islands. This is something I will do next, either in Flowscape or in the Dungeon Alchemist content, to just make maps of the different islands, of the different towns, and the players will have to piece everything together by just saying, okay, we're going to sail south, there should be an island there, and they will find an island probably and see what is in there. This is also where I'm going to take a quick jab at the explanation of a sandbox. A sandbox in itself is very intense for a DM. For bookkeeping, you have to have a lot of stuff going on in the background. You have different characters that move on their own accord, that act like traveling merchants, like pirate captains and their crews that travel around these parts. And this is a lot of stuff that as a DM, especially with a sandbox setting, that you have to have in mind. Where is that captain now? Would they cross path? How would they interact? And in a story-driven campaign, you instead can set something like this off as flags. If the characters go to the Skull Island, then a certain character moves and not before. Things are triggered more or less by triggers, by flags. You can, of course, mix both. This is kind of an ambitious project because I will mix both. I will have the bookkeeping of what pirate captain is doing what are their goals, how do they want to achieve them, where will they be, will they cross path. I will have set up those characters already over the time that I've prepared the campaign, and I will see if people run into each other, player characters run into each other or not. So yeah, one of the themes will be undead, one of the themes will be exploration. A third theme will be henchmen. D&D 5th edition has a class for NPCs that is called the sidekick class, with 3 different ways: a more supportive character, a more combat focused character, and I think a more magical focused character. And I will use these classes as a template to play around a little bit and give the whole thing a bit of a twist. They can hire different characters. One I've already made as a picture at least, and the different characters will give the crew as a whole passive stats, like faster sail speed because they're very expert in that, or better fighting stats like +1 damage, +1 armor, +1 to hit because they are very combat focused character that will support them in fights. Or for example, they will have the chance to find or get a cook, which just gives them general health buffs like temporary HP before they go on any adventure on any island, because they get very good food and little stuff like that that will differentiate these side characters. They can pick of a multitude of characters, and they will have a fixed maximum number, like 3 or 4, depending on the size of the group. This is also a thing. The size of the group is also very dependent on what you do. For a bigger group, let's say you have 5 or more players, this is also already very ambitious. I would always tend to go to a story-driven narrative campaign, because it is easier to keep everyone together. If you have 5 people and everyone wants to do something different in a sandbox game, you usually do not have a group that is very consistent and very held together. Another thing for sandbox is that you usually want players that are very good and quick and firm on their decision making. If you have players that are not really good at making decisions, that are really undecisive, then you would not necessarily want a sandbox campaign, because people can be stuck on what are we actually going to do. I kind of don't have an agenda, I kind of don't have an idea what I want to do. If you have a group that knows what they want to do, they want to be traveling merchants, they want to be mercenaries and fight for glory or something, then you can do a sandbox campaign. But again, this is kind of hard to set up, so don't set yourself on that. Other than that, yeah, as you can see, I'm so let's recap, let's refocus. We have a story-driven campaign. We have a high fantasy campaign with different themes or topics. The topics being pirates, exploration, undead, and sidekicks. The undead as a general adversary, so every race, every group is in the same boat. And the sidekicks as something for the players to manage, something they can think about on their off time. They can, yeah, min-max and organize. And yeah, I will talk about the general idea of the story in another video. How I will progress the quest or the main quest line, what it will be. Yeah, so watch out for the next video. Thanks for being here, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next one.